Alright, welcome. So today we have Nox here with us. She has been requested for quite a while now, so let's get right into it. Now normally I talk about a god's abilities and how it matters to actually building that god. For Nox it doesn't really matter too much. However, a couple points I do want to make for Nox. She has a lot of burst damage in her kit. She has a lot of magical power. All that magical power bonus comes from her passive, up to 12% increase in magical power if you have all 4 candles lit. You get these candles lit by using an ability. However, if you do take damage, 1 candle is turned off for that 1 damage that you taken. So definitely straightforward. Try not to get hit and you'll have plenty of damage. Next, she's super bursty with her 2-1 combo. However, if you do miss any of your, you miss your 1, you miss your 2, whatever, it is really punishing because then you do no damage at all. To help combat this, I would probably recommend going to a cooldown reduction item like a Chronos Pennant, and then you can probably sell your pen boots late game for cooldown reduction boots, and you're good to go from there. As far as level priority, you should probably max out your 2, your 1, your 3 ultimate at all times. However, you might consider leveling up your 3 over your 1 if you're pretty good at using your Shadow Step aggressively, because it does a lot of damage now since it's been buffed. And that's pretty much it. So let's get into actually building for Nox. Now, with Nox and Conquest, you have a couple different starts you can go into. Now, for one combination you can go into, you can go to Soulstone. Soulstone gives her a lot of magical power early on. If you get all 5 of your souls, and your next damaging ability has like plus 60 magical power added onto it. So that can help you clear early on and also be aggressive. So you can go into this and pair this up with the purple pot. However, the purple pot is high risk, high reward. Does give you a lot of magical power, 50 for 5 minutes. However, if you do die with it before 5 minutes, ideally you lose out on the 450 gold that you could use that gold for, actually building. If you don't want to go into something like that, you can go to Soulstone with the Lost Artifact, or you can go with the Vamp Shroud starter item, looking for the health and sustain, and pair that up with the Lost Artifact. But for now, let's go to a simple high burst mage build. Let's go into the Soulstone. Next, let's go to the Lost Artifact. You can go to these 2 items, the starter item and the Lost Artifact, right out of the gate. Lost Artifact is a pretty good item for what it does. MP5 the mana per 5 seconds, so you got more sustain there, magic power, whatever. But what's cool is it built into all 3 good items for a mage, and particularly for Nox. Now, for Nox, you can go straight into the Duomorph, another high risk, high reward item. Gives up to 140 total magical power once you have all 50 stacks. However, if you do die with stacks, you lose half of your stacks. So that's the the risk that you run picking up this item. So if you're pretty good with Nox, then you can go with this. However, if you're just trying out Nox, you're not totally familiar, or you're dying quite a bit, I'd probably just go into the Chronos Pennant and then go into your boots. Do something like this. However, if you want to run a high burst mage and you're not dying a whole lot, go to a Doomborn, go into your pen boots. After this point, if you didn't pick up Chronos Pennant early on, this would be a good time to pick it up, is right after your boots. You can go to Chronos Pennant. If you don't want cooldown reduction, you don't value it, you can go to a stacking item. I recommend going to the Book of Thoth, giving you a ton of magical power. Perfect. And the stacks, don't worry too much about the stacks don't matter too much. It's all based on mana, which as you level up, you get more mana. And then those are your 2 different items that you can go into after your boots. But I value Chronos Pennant, so let's just go into Chronos Pennant. Regardless if you want to stack an item or Chronos Pennant in this item slot, you definitely want to go to a pin item right after that. Pin items allow you to maximize your damage, and that way they can't build magic protections against you and you're doing no damage. So pin, I would go into the Obsidian Shard. I feel like it's the best pin item majority of the time. If you're just fighting like gods that aren't building any magical protections, or you're not fighting any warriors and guardians that naturally have a lot of magical protections, then you can go to the Spirit Magus. The Spirit Magus, you can easily apply all 3 stacks with your 1. So this is good against non-tanky targets. However, if you're going against tanky targets and you want to do a more objective damage like towers, phoenixes, and fire giants, this Obsidian Shard would just shred them totally. And it also gives you 70 magical power compared to the 40 from Spirit Magus. So, going to the Obsidian Shard. After this point, the match is probably somewhat ending. I would top off your magical power. This will give you a huge spike going to the Rod Tahuti. As you see, I have 250 here. Of course, I have no stacks on Duomorph. Going to Rod Tahuti. We're at 469. We're sitting pretty good. Now, at this point, you can sell your starter item mid to late game whenever you feel like you don't need it. Sell that to complete one of your previous items, or sell this to help you finish an item. I'll probably go to Soul Reaver. You go into something like this, you have tons of burst damage and you have some cooldown reduction. I'd possibly sell the pin items, like I said earlier. I'll sell the pin boots for the cooldown reduction boots. Reason being, the 10 flat pin not doing a whole lot late game, honestly. I'd value the 10% over that personally, and this way you have 30% cooldown reduction, and you have a lot of burst damage. Again, keep in mind I have no stacks on the Doom Orb. Now for Doom Orb, if you have enough time, and if you have enough gold, I'll sell the Doom Orb and go ahead into another magical power item that has somewhat the same magical power as that Doom Orb. In this case, I'd probably just go into the Spirit of Desolation. It is pretty costly, so keep in mind on how much gold it costs and how much gold you get from selling the Doom Orb. So you can go to something like this. This way you have 25 pen, which is pretty good, paired up with a 33% penetration. So you have plenty of pen. So you can go to something like this. And let's go into something for like Arena. This pretty much covers Conquest and Siege, things like that. So something for Arena would be a lot more simpler. You go into Boots right away. I'll go into Chronos Pennant personally right away. You can go into the Book of Thoth safely in Arena, even if you have other mages that can clear the lane. Like I said, the stacks aren't too important. It's just based off of mana. Go into a pin item, the Obsidian Shard. Then I go into the Riot Hoodie, and then finish it off with the Soul Reaver. And then again, you can sell the Shoes of Magi for the cooldown reduction boots, especially in Arena, because there's tons of fighting in Arena, right? There's no like laning phase and jungling and all that nonsense. It's just fighting. So you can go to something like this. Now for Assault, you would just start with the Chronos Pennant as your very first item in Assault, because it gives you all that you need for Assault, because you can't go back to base. This gives you the mana per 5 seconds to help sustain. Go into the Chronos Pennant, then go into Boots of your choosing. And for Assault, you can't go to the Book of Thoth, so instead of that, you can just rush the pen, go into the Raja Hoodie, and then the Soul Reaver, and then pick up like whatever you want as item. Maybe if you just want a lot of magical power for very low cost, you can just go into Bancross just for giggles, because it gives you 100 magical power for very low cost. You can go something like that. And that pretty much wraps it up. The build doesn't change too much. If you change up your starter item, if it's the Vamp Shroud, you still go into the Lost Artifact. You can build this into like if you want to go the safe route, it'd just be in a Chronos Pennant, go to your Pen Boots, and then you can go into the Book of Thoth. Yeah, and this is pretty much what it looks like if you go the safe route. If you don't go into the Doom Orb and you go into like a Vamp Shroud, it doesn't really change the build too much. This is pretty much the basics that you would have for your Nox. The build doesn't really change too much from game mode to game mode. It's just built a lot of bursty damage, damaging items, and go into a cooldown reduction item. Now, if you want like physical protections because you're getting ganked a lot by a physical jungler or whatever the case is, maybe they have Loki's in Arena, then instead of Chronos Pennant, you just go into the Breast of Valor. This gives you the same 20% cooldown reduction, and you get the physical protection. That's pretty much it. So that is it. The build doesn't change too much from game mode to game mode. There's no real variance. Now, as far as relics, I'll go into maybe like a purification. You aren't CC immune at any time except using ultimate. And in some cases, it's like, do you really want to waste your ultimate to be CC immunity? So you can go to purification. And the other relics, it depends on what your team needs and what you feel you need. For assault, I'd recommend meditation because you can't go back to base, obviously. And this helps heal the team up and also restore your mana. And that's it. So hopefully it was helpful and giving you an idea what to build for your Nox. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.